Tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday the 26th of August 2025. Bailed. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe granted bail in the public fund misappropriation case. Turning point. Large crowds rejoice as the former president walks free. The UNP says the current opposition alliance will continue its forward momentum. President's stand. All citizens equal in the eyes of justice. President pledges punishment against the abuse of power. Legal concerns. The Bar Association condemns YouTubers' interference in legal proceedings. Emphasizes that the independence of the judiciary must be safeguarded from any form of outside interference.
Asian Paint Horseway Aquasafe මිලදීගෙන LED TV run voucher ඇතුළු තවත් හැකි රසක් දිනා ගන්න.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Aranayake, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was arrested over the alleged misappropriation of public funds during a trip to London, was released today on 3 surety bonds of 5 million rupees each by the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court. The former president was arrested last Friday and was remanded until today, but was admitted to the intensive care unit of the Colombo National Hospital due to health concerns. Currently receiving medical treatment at the Colombo National Hospital, the former president did not appear in court today but participated in the hearing virtually from the hospital.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department on Friday on charges of misappropriating government funds. The allegations pertain to his trip to England to attend a ceremony in which an honorary professorship was conferred upon his wife while returning from an official foreign visit during his presidency. He was subsequently remanded in custody by the Fort Magistrates Court until today. However, due to an emergency health condition, the former president was admitted to Colombo National Hospital, where he is currently receiving treatment in the intensive care unit. Against this backdrop, the legal proceedings concerning former President Ranil Wickremesinghe were scheduled to resume today before the Fort Magistrates Court. Heavy security was deployed around the court premises by police and the police special task force since this morning. However, due to his poor health and upon medical advice, former President Wickremesinghe was not produced before the court. Proceedings commenced at 1:40 p.m. with former President Wickremesinghe currently receiving treatment at Colombo National Hospital, participating virtually. Additional Solicitor General Dilip Piris submitted further details on the case to the court. He stated that a formal invitation from the University of Wolverhampton was not found among the correspondence of the Sri Lankan High Commission in London for 2023, nor in the files of the British High Commission in Sri Lanka or the Presidential Secretariat. He also noted that the President's Private Secretary Sandra Pereira and the President's Secretary Saman Ekanayake were unaware of such an invitation. Citing inconsistencies in the evidence related to invitation letter, the Additional Solicitor General highlighted that the visit was categorized variously as a private visit, then a visit, and then again as an official visit on 3 separate occasions. He further stated that the suspect himself acknowledged that the visit was a private one. The Additional Solicitor General strongly opposed granting bail to the suspect. He compared the cost incurred during the Cuba visit and the UK visit, stating that while the Cuba visit cost approximately 5.5 million rupees, the UK visit cost around 16.6 million rupees. He argued that since the former president is charged under the Public Property Act, which requires extraordinary and special circumstances for bail to be granted, the suspect should be remanded until the conclusion of the trial. Subsequently, President's Counsel Tilak Marapana presented evidence on behalf of former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. He argued that the invitation was sent by the Chancellor of the University of Wolverhampton, at the time Lord Swaraj Paul, to attend an event celebrating his 25 years as Chancellor, where the ceremony to confer the honorary professorship also took place. Marapana added that participation in such an event and facilitating discussions about Sri Lanka should not be considered a misuse of public funds. He further noted that the cost comparison between between the Cuba and England visits were not documented in the National Audit Office reports for the relevant year, nor were they mentioned by the Committee on Public Accounts. He questioned the authority of an official from the Presidential Secretariat to conduct such an audit. Citing the age of the former president, Marapana stated that if bail was not granted, the case would be appealed to higher courts, which would take over a decade to conclude. He therefore requested bail. Later, President's Counsel Anuja Premaratne presented additional facts to support bail under the Public Property Act. Premaratne stated that the former president is in critical health with 3 of the 4 major arteries associated with the heart blocked. Premaratne added that Wickremesinghe is also suffering from chronic kidney disease, sleep apnea requiring use of a CPAP machine during sleep, a lung infection, low sodium levels, high blood pressure, dizziness and the risk of a sudden heart attack. Considering the serious health conditions, the council requested bail on the grounds of exceptional circumstances. The Additional Solicitor General responded by highlighting that the suspect had recently attended several political meetings and undertaken a number of foreign visits and questioned the legitimacy of the medical reports, noting that most were obtained only yesterday and from private hospitals. He requested the court to call for a formal medical report from court-appointed medical experts and to reject bail, ordering further remand. After reviewing all submissions, Fort Magistrate Nilupuli Lankapura noted that the defence had presented medical reports obtained from a foreign hospital in 2016 and 2017 as well as recent reports from a private hospital. Additionally, a medical report from a team of 6 specialist doctors from the National Hospital had been submitted. The magistrate stated that while the court could not verify the authenticity of all medical reports at this time, it trusted that the doctors issued them responsibly. The court concluded that the suspect's current medical condition should be closely monitored by doctors. Accordingly, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe was released on bail with 3 surety bonds of 5 million rupees each. The next hearing is scheduled for October 29th. However, the former president's office, issuing a statement, said that he will remain in Colombo National Hospital for a few more days to continue treatment despite being granted bail.
රුපියල් 8,900ක මාසික වාරිකයකට brand new TVS X100 යතුරු පැදියක් ගන්න.
Large crowds comprising members of political parties, public representatives, Buddhist clergy and civil society members flocked near the Fort Magistrates Court today as legal proceedings against former President Ranil Wickremesinghe were taken up for hearing. Consequently, several roads in the vicinity of the court premises experienced severe traffic congestion.
Heightened security measures remained effective around the Fort Magistrates Court since earlier this morning, in anticipation of the legal proceedings against former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Traffic restrictions were imposed on several key routes in the vicinity, resulting in significant congestion along the main roads leading to the courthouse by the afternoon. The opposition leader and several other opposition representatives were seen arriving at the premises to attend the proceedings. Access to the courtroom was strictly limited to legal professionals, members of parliament and accredited journalists. Tensions arose when police intervened and established barricades to prevent large crowds attempting to reach the court premises, expressing their collective dissent over the remand of the former president. Amidst the conflict, a police officer sustained minor injuries.
The government certainly possesses the authority to enforce the law when appropriate. However, such enforcement must not serve as a cover for repression. At this critical juncture, the backing of the general public is essential. Let us unite and work collectively to bring an end to the current administration.
Back in 2022, during the people's struggle, I stood in protest outside Ranil Wickremesinghe's residence. At that time, I stood with the demonstrators. We never imagined he would be capable of steering the country toward progress after taking office. However, remarkably, within just 2 years, didn't he manage to turn things around and initiate development? That's not something we should ignore or forget over time.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says the government has empowered the judiciary to enforce the law independently and asserts that action will be taken against individuals spreading unfounded rumours regarding judicial decisions. With that, here's a look at more thoughts shared by government representatives regarding the legal proceedings against former President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
ඒ අධිකරණ ක්‍රියාවලියක්නේ සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ. එතකොට
This is a judicial process. We promised the public that we would enforce the law regardless of rank. We have ensured the complete independence and freedom for institutions to enforce the law, and that process is currently underway.
ඒක දැන් සිදු වෙමින් පවතිනවා.
ඔබතුමී පෙරේදාර හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතා බලන්න ගියා කියලා දැන් මාධ්‍ය වල පොඩි කතාවක් යනවා මේ සමාජ මාධ්‍ය වල. ඔබතුමී ගියාද? එතුමා සනීපෙන් ඉන්නවද කොහොමද දන්නේ?
ඒක නම් ගියා අයගෙන් තමයි අහන්න වෙන්නේ.
You all have to inquire about his condition from those who actually visited him. We will have to take action against those spreading fake news. Do not turn rumors into news. They are not even credible media channels.
නෙවෙයි ඒවා මන්ද මොනවද කියලා.
ඔබතුමා ප්‍රකාශ කරන අනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහට මේක අවුරුදු 40කට කලින් තමයි දඩුවම් දෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. නමුත් ඔබතුමාගේ ආලසිය මාත්‍ර උන්ගෙත් වැඩ කළා. එතකොට ඒ කාලේ අනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ කියන පුද්ගලයා අධිකාරියෙක් විදිහට දැක්කේ නැහැ.
පසුගිය කාට අදාළව අපි
In the past, we often had to work with diverse political groups to protect the country's basic rights. Now, as a government, we have a public mandate, and a significant part of that is to enforce the law fairly and equitably. Ranil and the Rajapakshas are individuals who believed that the law would never be enforced against them. Why is everyone surprised now? That's because there was an unspoken rule. What was it? That people like Ranil, the Rajapakshas, Premadas and Chandrika were above the law. The public gave us a mandate to bring them to justice, and that's exactly what we have done.
ඔක්කොම නීතිය රටට ගේන්නේ කියලා. අපි ඒක තමයි මේ කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
කොහොමද ඇත්තටම රනිල්ට නම්
Ranil Wickremesinghe's blood pressure must have certainly increased because he never imagined something like this would happen. However, he remains in the ICU, hoping the court will grant him some kind of opportunity.
අනපතිකාරය හරහා විපක්ෂයේ මේ බලපෑම් කරමින් සිටිනවා කිසිම තානාපති කෙනෙක්ගෙන්
We have not been pressured by even a single ambassador regarding this matter. In fact, the ambassadors respond with a thumbs up.
උත්තරේ මෙන්න මෙහෙම.
අනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතාට නඩුපාවල තිබ්බේ මේ පෞද්ගලික සංචාරක යුතුයයි කියලා. එතකොට දැන් ජනාධිපතිවරයා එයාගේ අම්මා බලන්න මව බලන්න ගිය එකත් මේකට
අපිට හිතනවා නම් අපේ අතින් අවභාවිතාවක් වෙයි එහෙම නැත්නම්
If we believe there could be a misuse of funds, or if something appears to be illegal, we typically raise the issue in advance. In this case, an investigation has already taken place, and that's how legal action was taken. What we can observe is that no prior notice was given. Typically, state officials have the right to use government vehicles for private purposes within certain limits. No issues will arise if large expenses are declared in advance.
ප්‍රකාශ කරලා තමයි ඔය හොඳ. ඉතින් කාටවත් කරදරයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ මොනාන.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම බාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
President Anu Dissanayake affirms that any individual found guilty of abusing power or misappropriating public resources will be held accountable before the law. Speaking at a ceremony today, the President underscored that the rule of law applies equally to all, regardless of wealth, position or social standing.
A special ceremony marking National Bhikkhu Day observed today was held at Temple Trees with the participation of representatives from the three major sects of Buddhist clergy. President Anu Dissanayake also attended the event.
Let me present some facts about the country which we took over. On one side, the country's state sector, where responsibility and accountability should be upheld, had collapsed. While the majority within the state sector contributed to the good of the people, some abandoned their responsibilities for personal monetary gain. They believe that political power they hold is a license to spend public funds as they please. Should we continue down this path, or should we change course decisively? I promise here that we will change this country's direction decisively. If my government fails to do so, no other government will. I will make sure it happens. First, everyone must be equal before the law. This is a fundamental principle of justice. We will make this a cultural norm. A person's wealth, power, position, history or past use of power will not be considered. Everyone is equal before the law. This is not about revenge or witch hunt. The steps we have taken will not be reversed under any circumstances. They may protest or lament, but the law will stand firm. Why do some panic when we say everyone is equal before the law? Because their conscience knows they are guilty. The principle of equality before the law should be a blessing, but they fear it because of their guilt. What we have inherited is deeply flawed, but our efforts are focused on creating something good from this.
The Bar Association of Sri Lanka expressed concern over recent social media comments and predictions by YouTubers on judicial decisions. Releasing a statement, the Bar Association notes the independence of the judiciary must be safeguarded and protected from any form of outside threat or interference sought to be effected through social media posts or purported predictions by YouTubers on case outcomes. The Bar Association highlights that such acts undermine the rule of law, threatens due process of law and can have potential to impact the public confidence in the administration of justice. The BASL reminds that perpetrators of such interference can face legal consequences under Article 111, Section C, Section 1 and Section 2 of the Constitution, which provides penal provisions against interference with the judiciary. Concluding its statement, the Bar Association emphasized the need for all stakeholders, including law enforcement authorities, to safeguard the rule of law, due process and the protection of the rights and liberties of citizens at all times. Welcome back to First at 9. Now taking you to more local news, as former President Ranil Wickremesinghe was granted bail by the court, supporters gathered at the court premises broke into cheers and celebrations. Amid the celebrations, General Secretary of the United National Party, Thalathathu Korala, stated that the alliance between opposition parties will continue. Crowds gathered around the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court, cheered and celebrated the court ruling which granted bail to former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Political figures expressed their views upon exiting the court premises.
Today will go down as a historical day in Sri Lankan politics and constitutional history. It is an instance where the independence of court, the rule of law as well as the due process was upheld in an impartial, transparent and just manner. There were several attempts to threaten the judicial process and the rule of law by issuing predictions of court orders even before court proceedings were initiated. However, justice was served by our independent judiciary. We express our gratitude to all lawyers who represented the former president as well as everyone else who united for his freedom.
අධිකරණය ස්වාධීනත්වය අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වුණා. ඒ වගේම රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාට අසාධාරණයක් වුණා නිසා අපි පෙනී හිටියා මිස අපි දූෂණයට, වංචාවට, හොරකමට අපි එළියට බහින ඒ වෙනුවෙන් සටන් කරන අය නෙමෙයි.
මේක රජයේ විසින්ම කුමන්ත්‍රණය කරගෙන එතුමා පමණක් නෙවෙයි මුළු විපක්ෂම යටපත් කරන්න කරපු දෙයක් හැටියට තමයි අපි දකින්නේ. අද සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා ඇතුළේ සියලුම කණ්ඩායමටත් අනිත් පක්ෂවල නායකවරුන්ටත් සියලු දෙනාටම අපි ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා.
ආණ්ඩුවේ දේශපාලන මර්ධනය මේ රටේ ඉන්න ආණ්ඩුවට විරුද්ධව කතා කරන ආණ්ඩුවට එරෙහිව යන දේශපාලන යඥයන්ව යම්කිසි ආකාරයේ ටාගට් කරලා ඒගොල්ලොන් හිරේ දාන උත්සාහයක් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තමයි ආණ්ඩුව දියත් කරේ. මම හිතනවා ඒක අධිකරණය විසින් අද පරාජයට ලක් කරා. අධිකරණයේ මේ තීන්දුව ඉතාම ඓතිහාසික තීන්දුවක්.
දැන් පෞද්ගලික දසවල ඔබතුමාලා යෝජනා කරන එක දේශපාලන පරිගණකයක් නැති කියලා. එහෙම නෑ. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපති.
It has been proved that arresting former President Ranil Wickremesinghe is in fact political revenge. The reason for his arrest does not seem to satisfy the people of this country. A president is the head of state 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. He engages in overseas visits as the president. This is common to any country. They seem to be unaware of this. The government should take this as a message. When a government comes into power, the public expects development and the fulfillment of their promises. Instead of doing any of that, they resorted to repression. They only focused on apprehending thieves and putting them behind bars. It is clear that their plan has failed. The person who rescued the country from the era of queues was imprisoned for days. At least now the government should abandon political manhunt and the mindset that their party should be the only party in the country and focus on uniting with other political parties to develop the country with their support.
රට හැදුවොත් හොඳයි. මම හිතන්නේ මේක පාඩමක් වෙයි ආණ්ඩුවට. දැන් මේ එකතුව ඉවරද ඉස්සරහට? නෑ මේ එකතුව මේක දිගටම තියෙයි. මේක ආණ්ඩුවම කරගත්තු දෙයක් තමයි. ඉතින් මේ තා කිටි කාලයක් ඇතුළත මේ එකතුව ඇති කරගන්න. දැන් ඔක්කොම මේකේ එකතු වුණානේ කොහොමද? කියලාවත් කරගන්න බැරි වැඩක්. අපි ආණ්ඩුවට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. බොළු විපක්ෂයේ මේක රාශි වුණා. එතුමා නිදහස් කරගන්න විතරද එකතු වුණේ? නෑ. දිදියට එක පෙරමුණකට එනවා. ඒක ලොකු සංවිධානයක් හදන්න බලාපොරොත්තු. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම. අයුක්තියට විරුද්ධව තමයි එකතු වුණේ. දේශපාලන ප්‍රතිපත්ති ඔක්කොම එකයි මල්ලි. දැන් සන්දාන හදාවසෙන් පස්සේ ඉවරයිද? නෑ. පළවෙනි දේ තමයි හෙට උදේ සන්දානය. හෙට උදේ සන්දානය හදනවා. සන්දානය හදලා ඉවරයි. ඔව් අපි පක්ෂ ලේකම්වරුන්ගේ අපේ තියෙන එකමුතුවක් පක්ෂ ලේකම්වරු හෙට උදෑසන නායකත්ව වෙනස ගැන මේ වෙනකොට තීරණයක් කරන්නේ නෑ. මොකද නායකත්ව වෙනස් වෙන්නේ? මේක ජනාධිපතිතුමා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී ඇවිල්ලා අපිට කිව්වේ "ඕ ආණ්ඩුව පෙරලනවාද" කියලා වුණා. මේ ඉන්න ලෝයස්ලා 7-800. ඔය අරගලේ වෙලා අපිට එක ලෝය කෙනෙක් හිටියේ නෑ. මේ ලෝයස්ලා ඔක්කොම ආණ්ඩුව එකතු කරලා දුන්නා විපක්ෂෙට.
In the meantime, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa paid another visit to the National Hospital, Colombo, where former President Ranil Wickremesinghe is currently receiving treatment. Sivaliaro Goda has been appointed as the new Director General of Sri Lanka Customs effective today. He previously served as an additional Director General of Sri Lanka Customs. Sivaliaro Goda, who becomes the 45th head of Sri Lanka Customs, is the first officer in the department's history to ascend through every rank to reach the top position. Arugoda, who had served in Sri Lanka Customs for over 36 years, first joined as an assistant superintendent in 1989. He has distinguished himself both locally and internationally, most notably through his strong association with the World Customs Organization. Now, the unified table for the Sri Lanka Transport Board and private sector long-distance bus services was implemented from last night. The first phase was initiated from the Bastion of the bus terminal in Colombo. Joining the event, Deputy Minister of Transport and Highways Prasanna Gunasena stated that both SLTB and private buses are expected to operate from the same location within a specified time frame from today. However, SLTB trade unions have expressed strong opposition to the move, stating that they will protest against the decision to operate long-distance bus services under a unified timetable involving both SLTB and private operators. Taking you to business news, the chairman of the Export Development Board, Mangala Vijay Singha, revealed plans to generate over $36 billion in export revenue by the year 2030. Addressing a government media conference yesterday, Vijay Singha disclosed the establishment of an export-led investment committee to attract more investors into the country.
Mainly for the economic growth in Sri Lanka this year, expectation is more than 5%. And also export growth also we are expecting this year more than 10 to 12% export growth. Government wise we are trying to now diversify the export sector and also diversify product range also. Now as a government we are trying to establish now export led investment committee. So with that we are trying to grab more foreign investors to Sri Lanka. Our next Export Development Council of Ministers we are planning to have in November. So during this period, so we are trying to fulfill all the gaps in the export sector. We can see our SME sector contribution to the total GDP Sri Lanka is more than 52%. But when it comes to the export sector, we can see that we need some improvement. So targeting the SME sectors, government is planning to expand new export strategy also. Hopefully by the month of October, we will be able to complete it. This year, we are trying to get good export performance and the next 5 months, so we are trying our best to reach in between 7 to 18 billion export performance, and the next 5 years as a country we are planning to get more than 36 billion export performance by 2030.
The Colombo bourse bounced back in green today as a result of price gains in counters such as DFCC Bank, Sampath Bank and Dialogue Asiata. The benchmark ASPI gained 37.8 points to close at 20,613.39 points, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 6.29 points to end the day at 6,048.8 points. Market turnover was 5.1 billion rupees. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 519.5 million rupees. With that, let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan news brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.